Beau Is Afraid is a movie that exists. It was made. It's out in theaters. I went to go see it, and I'm going to attempt to talk about it now. So here we go. Beau Is Afraid is Ari Aster's newest film. It's written and directed by him. It has been 4 years since his last film, Midsummer 2019. He also directed Hereditary back in 2018, so a notable gap between feature films for Mr. Aster. The film follows the main character, Beau Wasserman, played by Joaquin Phoenix, who lives in this awful city, a shitty apartment. There's crime going on everywhere. It's always loud. It's just the absolute antithesis of a safe and comforting home. We get a pretty good idea just of his situation in life at the moment, where he's living, the mental health and anxiety that he's dealing with, as well as the relationship that he has with his mother that they kind of imply towards the sort of mental abuse that she may inflict on him. And long story short, a sequence of events takes place to where we now follow Beau going from his home to this other place that's far away, and all this crap comes his way on his way there. That's at least how I would put it if I'm not trying to give away too much. I believe Ari Aster himself actually said it's a kind of equivalent to Lord of the Rings, where we follow these characters, or in this case, just this one character who goes on this long journey towards this destination. I kind of like that comparison. I think it's funny, and I think it is also fitting, not only because of that, but because of the runtime for this movie. It is basically 3 hours long, just a minute shy of that. And I'm struggling to determine whether or not I think it is too long, if I do think there are scenes that should have been cut out. My thoughts right now are that it wasn't. I was actually fine with a lot that was in here. I will say that I wasn't a fan of everything. I do have issues. I have my qualms that I'll get into. But I think everything here does serve a purpose. Now, I don't understand the purpose of everything yet, but it did feel like there wasn't any fluff here. Just maybe some stuff that wasn't super well explains, which maybe that's how it's supposed to be. Maybe it's supposed to be up to our imaginations to figure out the meanings of certain things, as we also see Beau himself have quite the vast imagination at moments. And I guess I'll sort of segue into the character of Beau himself, played by Joaquin Phoenix, who I think does a great job here. And I just want to praise him real quick for not only the performance, but just for accepting this role, and I'll also, I guess, praise the rest of the cast too. This is a weird ass movie. It's very strange, very unorthodox in lots of different ways. And I know I'm getting kind of ahead of myself here, but I'm really glad it was made. And I'm happy that filmmakers still have this amount of creative freedom. And I hope people go see it and give it support. But the character of Beau Wasserman here is very interesting, as I hinted at. But we get some interesting moments in the film with regards to Beau's point of view. And I guess in general, I could also align that with the film's structure, because it's mostly told in a linear fashion, but we actually do get some flashbacks here and there, in particular to when he's, a teenager, like 14, 15 years old maybe, as well as certain scenes where we just get completely out of the moment that he's currently in. Wherever he's at, whoever he's with, we get to see what he's thinking about in his head and just what's going on in his brain. And it's very fascinating. It is confusing. I don't understand the intent of everything, but I'll praise Ari Aster for clearly not giving a shit what the audience is going to think, how they'll interpret it. Like, this is what's going on in this character's head. This is what I'm going to present here, and take it as you will. So, props. Now, with Beau kind of going on this big long journey in the movie from one place to another, there are these sort of pit stops that are made throughout the course of the running time. Whether he intends to make them or not, they happen. He's kind of just forced to settle in these areas at parts of this whole journey. And that's another thing I would point to with regards to things I didn't really like that much. Some of the characters that he comes across, I think, could have been written better. There's at one point, there's this couple that he's staying with, and they have this daughter who is kind of just a generic teenage person, you know, fuck you, this and that. Like, it's kind of by the numbers stuff with regards to that type of character. But they introduce another idea with this character pretty abruptly, where she makes a decision to do this thing. I'm being vague, I don't want to give away what actually happens. And I just think there could have been actually more time, weirdly enough, dedicated to the writing for this character, because I could see this being an effective point in the story, especially for Beau and everything that he's going through. But to me, it just felt a little bit rushed, I would say. I also did not love really a lot of the comedy in the movie. There are, of course, moments here and there that I thought were kind of funny. Certain jokes or shots that were obviously had comical intents. I mean, and some of those worked, but a lot of it felt very forced to me, specifically some of the things that happened with him and his mother. I did not find it funny. There were people in my theater that were laughing, enjoying it. That's cool. I just didn't. As I alluded to before, there's a lot of things that are up for interpretation in this movie. A lot of metaphorical imagery, metaphorical dialogue. And from that standpoint, I do really appreciate Beau Is Afraid for being that ambitious and so not going down a by the numbers route. But I did have my issues with it, mainly relating to a lot of the comedy that's interjected into the film, as well as the roles of certain characters and how they were written. It's sort of a struggle for me to review this movie, because it's almost like it's so much that happens, so there should be a lot for me to talk about, but it's overwhelming. It's a lot to think about, to digest. And of course, I do not want to spoil it for you. So I think I'm just going to have to wrap it up here. I did not love this movie with the expectations that I had for it going into it. It was a bit of a letdown, but I can certainly say that this is going to be one of the most memorable movies of this entire year for me, without a doubt. Not one of the best of the year, probably. You know, I don't see it being in my top 10 or my honorable mentions when all things are said and done at this year's conclusion. But it will be one that I want to rewatch at some point in the future. And I mean, even when I actually came home from the theater, I went right to YouTube and I tried to look up certain scenes from it again. It was, you know, it had so many of those moments that I just wanted to rewatch. I look forward to how my thoughts will change and evolve with this film as time goes on from this point. But for now, I would say I'm feeling a 7 out of 10. I'm very interested to see how lots of people feel about it. How do you guys feel about it if you've happened to have watched it when this review is coming out, or just any point in the future if you're watching this? You know, I would love to see what you think about it. Feel free to leave a comment. Thank you all for watching. I hope this isn't a dumpster fire of a review here. I really didn't try to organize it in any way. As I've said before, I don't write any scripts for these videos. I just turn on the camera and wing it, basically. So hopefully I can make this at least somewhat understandable, and I don't sound like a weirdo and like my brain's just everywhere. Yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you. Peace out.